Terrence here with Root Healthy Plants, and in today's video we got a good one. We've been making a lot of progress on this food forest in this backyard. I wanted to add a few more plants. One of my favorite things to do is to walk up on my compost bin and see new plants growing, new fruits or vegetables growing from my compost bin. And when I see that, I know I got a beautiful nutrient-rich growing medium that new seedling is going to actually thrive from. So once it grows its true leaves, I say it's time to transplant it into my food forest, and that's what I'm going to do today. So we have squash growing in the compost, we have tomatoes, peppers, a few things growing in the compost bin, but today we're going to transplant two beautiful squash into their new home. Join me as I do that. Okay, so what you're looking at here is one of my compost bin, and we have some beautiful thriving squash here and squash here. We have a ton of tomatoes. Maybe a week or so I'm going to come back and I'm going to separate all these, and I'm going to transplant all of these tomatoes here. These right here, all of these are its true leaves. So once we get those true leaves, it's time to transplant. And the more mature the plant I found, the better to transplant, because I noticed young, and I don't know if we can get that on camera, we have a young squash coming in right there. I don't like to transplant it when it's young like that. You see some holes in the leaves, bugs tearing it up. I like to wait till it gets more mature like this right here. So, how are we going to surgically pull this out? So, I like to be more safe and play it more safe than sorry. So, I like to go a little bit deeper than I imagine where the roots are, and then kind of go up from there and try to be as delicate as we can. And I just want to gently search through, try not to pull any roots if we don't have to. And with that, I want to also lay as much of this compost out as I can. So if I can get a nice bed of compost, because I want this in the same type of nutrient-rich environment that it's sitting in now. I don't want to drastically change its environment, its nutrients, and if you do that, that's going to give the plant a more of a likelihood of dying, or at least putting it under heavy stress. So I want to get a nice amount of compost for when I transplant that, and let it slowly wean itself into the new growing medium where it's going to, its final resting place is going to be. So we got one out. I want to get this other one out here. And this one is over here in the back more. I want to get under there pretty good. Okay, we're working with it. Okay, it wasn't too much going on under there. Wasn't a whole lot of a root system there, but I just want to take a nice amount of compost with me. Cover those roots up. We definitely don't want exposed roots, not for long. Okay, so we're good with these two. Now we're gonna go transplant those. So we're good with these two. We're gonna go transplant these into the food forest. It's time to go find our new home for our butternut squash, and I know just the place. Come on, take a look. And we have a good place right here. This is where we're gonna go. Let's see, we're taking a walk down to where we're putting these plants. We got some things going on, just a little bit, a few things. Right next to where that bok choy is starting to go to seed. So we got a fig tree in the background. We got some bok choy over here that's going to seed. We're getting ready to take that out the ground soon. And I pulled something from over here not too long ago. So this was a perfect place to put this to replace what I pulled out. And we actually have more tomatoes coming in. See, tomatoes here, tomatoes here. And that's from the compost that I laid out. There's tomatoes. There's a couple weeds, a couple black locust trees. And get those out of here. But yeah, we are going to get this in. And like I said, we have decent soil here. I've added in compost before, but I didn't fill this bed with compost this year, not yet. I've been adding compost, mixing it in on a top layer when I plant something, but I didn't just mix in compost and disturb all the soil in this whole bed. So I've been adding it in as I need it. But I definitely want to get a nice little hole here. I want to be able to get all that compost in there and be as gently with this squash as possible, because squash do not like to be transplanted. They don't like to be disturbed. So, like I said, with the nutrients, you definitely want to try to keep it in as much nutrient mix as you can. Keep it maintained. So we're just going to cover that up right there. All right, we got that one in. And if I forget to do it in this video, make sure when you transplant your plants that you water them in. That's vital. So these little tomatoes, I don't want to ruin those, but tomatoes are resilient. So if you're ever worried about your little tomatoes, just know that those little things, they are very resilient. And how did I find that out? The hard way. Deer eating 25 of my tomato plants one year. Actually, my first year doing tomatoes, deer ate 25 of my tomato plants. I was not happy about that. But I say they're resilient because they all bounce back. All 25 of them, deer ate them all down to little nubs. And they all bounce back. They all bounce back and produce that year. Yeah, they made me a believer that year. They made me, have that as a staple in my garden. All right, here we go. Second one going in. I could have been a little bit more delicate or strategic with that one. But let's get that covered up. So what's ideal is making your hole, putting some compost down at the bottom as like a little bed under where your roots are going to go so that they can grow into it and such. And then filling that whole area around the roots with the compost also. If you're doing it transferring it from your compost bin, of course. I mean, it's never going to hurt to add the compost to something like squash because they'll only love that nutrient mix. But, like I said, for me, it's how I like to do it. Lay that bed of compost, add that plant in there, and make sure it's fully surrounded by that compost mix that you had it in, because it was thriving in there. And I think I'm pretty happy with how it is right now. I definitely want to monitor it and see how it's doing. But I feel confident that one, if not both of these, will survive. But I just wanted to get it in my garden so that I can make room to start adding more compost to my compost bin. I want to get all those starts out once, maybe like next week. Like I said, within that week, maybe, I want to get those tomatoes out. Once I get all those tomatoes out, then I have a few more buckets of compost I want to add in there, mix in there. And then my other compost bin, I want to come out here and start spreading more and adding more and more stuff to my food forest, because we have this full of the trees. We have our tree layer finished. We have our shrub layer finished. We are still planting out our vine layer. I consider the squash part of my vine layer along with my grapes and other things that are vining out. And then I'm going to come through and maybe a week or two, and then I'm going to do my ground cover layer, and it's going to really consist of a ton of beans. I'm big on the beans, the dry beans, because I'm a really big advocate of a survival forest. If your power grid goes down, if you can't have your freezer and you need food, your family needs food, there are certain things that they're going to last whether they're cold, refrigerated, they're kept in any certain condition. As long as you keep them dry, they're gonna last you years. So like the beans, my dry beans, my glass gem corn, my butternut squash, which could last you years. I'm big on those, and I'm gonna continue to fill this food forest with food, but my primary food is survival food. So that's gonna be my base, aside from my perennials and the trees and the shrubs. But I definitely, after, I don't have to put much work in on the trees and the shrubs anymore. After I done put them in the ground, laid the foundation, they're gonna do what they're gonna do. I put them in the ground properly. We're not really gonna get any fruit this year. I did a nice amount of root disturbance, so the fruit, besides the ones I pulled off, a lot of them fell off, and that's okay. Like I said, I definitely disturbed their root ball the way I put them in there, just to make sure that we had healthy roots, no girdling roots. But we are gonna kill it this year. And I know all my trees, I have full confidence that all my trees are gonna survive. All my shrubs are gonna survive. Not thrive, not just survive, but they're going to thrive. And next year, we are gonna look very abundant. So definitely stay locked and loaded with me. We got a lot of stuff starting to fruit. We got cucumbers coming in. We got peppers coming in right here, if you can see that. We had bok choy. This bok choy, these bok choy seed pods, they are starting to, they're starting to do their thing. I can see the shape of the pods that the seeds are almost ready. I'm gonna come out here, harvest a lot of bok choy seeds, and we are gonna reseed the bok choy in the fall, and we're gonna have a ton more of bok choy. But I don't wanna make this video too much about anything else. This is more about transplanting these beautiful butternut squash, because this is our food forest, and our basis of the food forest is things like survival food, which butternut squash definitely is. So I appreciate you for watching. If you have any comments, put it in the comment section. If you have any questions, please put it in the comment section. I will answer every question. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. If you are not subscribed, you're missing out. Please subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Root Healthy Plants.